Delighted to be joined in studio by the Bearfield man who has brought the remarkable story of one of Ireland's most influential inventors to life in a new publication. John Barron is with us in studio. He has written a book exploring the life and legacy of Harry Ferguson from his early days as a pilot and racing enthusiast to his groundbreaking work in tractor and farm machinery design. John, you've spent over 30 years researching and preserving Ferguson's history, I guess, but people out there will be wondering what piqued the interest for you in the first place.
Well, I was brought up in a small farm. I've always been interested in tractors, and I have a very strong interest in industrial history. So Harry Ferguson was an Irishman. He was probably one of the most famous Irish innovators that the world has ever known. He was certainly the most famous innovator in the world of agriculture. And sure, why not then? A good Irishman from County Down.
Absolutely. So where does the research start when you decide, you know what, I'm going to get all this down on paper?
Well, I'm a collector of pretty much everything Ferguson. So I have a collection of tractors, I have a collection of implements, I have a collection of Ferguson literature, ephemera, all kinds of knickknacks relating to Harry Ferguson. I've been collecting those over the last, I suppose, 15 years. And there's a whole worldwide people worldwide collect Ferguson stuff. It's the whole vintage scene, and there's a whole scene around Harry Ferguson and honouring his legacy and heritage and remembering his legacy and heritage. And that led, of course, into the famous Massey Ferguson company, which is worldwide, known worldwide. And Ferguson gave that company his name. That resulted as a merger of a company called Massey Harris, a large Canadian producer of agricultural equipment, with the Ferguson group of companies in 1953. It became Massey Harris Ferguson in 1953, and the name was changed to Massey Ferguson in 1957. And that became one of the largest, if not the largest, at various times, producer of agricultural equipment in the world.
Just something that's caught my eye on the book that you have here in front of it. And first of all, it's a fabulous looking publication. It will certainly stand out on shop shelves, that's for sure and certain. But it's Harry Ferguson, From Birth to the Black Tractor. Now that has just caught my eye, because I think people that would think Massey Ferguson tractors in the olden days would perhaps more have the red colour in mind. Tell us about the black tractor.
Well, the black tractor was the first tractor in the world to incorporate what's known as the Ferguson system of farming. And that was a cluster of 7 or 8 inventions developed by Harry Ferguson and a team that worked with him, that was first incorporated into the black tractor, which was produced in 1935. That was a prototype tractor. That tractor went into production with a joint venture with David Brown in Huddersfield in 1936. That wasn't a commercial success. Harry Ferguson then went to work with Henry Ford in the United States, and they developed what was known as the Ford Ferguson tractor, and that was a resounding success. In 1945, Ferguson came back to England, and he established a relationship in Banner Lane in Coventry with the Standard Motor Company, and they produced what everybody knows as the Little Grey Fergie, the Ferguson 20 series of tractors. And they went from 1946 to 1956, and over 517,000 tractors were produced during that period.
I wonder if Harry Ferguson saw the first ever tractor he produced to maybe the latest that might have been produced, and the developments in technology, would he ever have dreamt that, there'd be that much of a development in it?
Well, he probably wouldn't, but he was an innovator, and the technology that he created was ahead of its time. So he probably would, if he was around now, be very much able to cope with the developments in technology. I think the nearest person the nearest analogy you could make with a modern innovator would be Steve Jobs. So neither of them really invented much as such, but they were able to take other people's inventions, and in the case of Ferguson, his own, and commercialise those into very successful disruptive technologies that were world leaders in their field.
I'd imagine when you're talking to people about the book and the research that went into it, it's the kind of thing that maybe evokes a lot of memories for people. I know we were chatting off air there. I was saying myself and a couple of my siblings learned to drive in a 135 Massey, and then we got very classy all together. We went up to the 3 Series and all the rest of it. But like the big old steering wheels with no power steering, and you're fighting with it around a corner. There's a lot of people, I would imagine, have stories like that.
Well, they have. Well, an awful lot of people. I give a lot of talks, and a lot of people come of my generation and tell me that they learned to drive on the Ferguson 20 tractor. And it evokes a lot of, as you say, memory and passion, really, those tractors, because they did transform farming, particularly on small farms and on marginal farms and hillside farms. And that tractor works today, and I have several of them in my collection, as of many others, and they work as well today as the day they came out of the factory. So they were very well engineered. They were very small, of course, by modern day tractors. But I think in answer to your question, Ferguson would very well have coped with modern developments in machinery and in tractor technology.
Yeah, I remember in our house the day that the one with the cab came, we thought we had gone up in the world, that there was some bit of cover from the weather coming in on it. You have a collection of them at home? Are they stored safely in a shed somewhere?
Oh yeah, they are, of course, yeah. Some of them are very valuable, you know, they're one or two are once-offs and the only ones in existence. So
do they get out much?
Not really, no. I'm not a mechanic, so I kind of more or less enjoy the historical side, the history, the industrial history side, an insight into Ferguson's personality and the people around him and what drove him and what were the circumstances that led to his success and what were the inhibitors to his success, because he had a very tough life. The whole development of the Ferguson system, which includes automatic draft control, took over 20 years. And that required a lot of perseverance and resilience and major setbacks and all that goes with that.
Is he as popularly known, perhaps, as he should be? Do you find that people are learning about him a little bit more because of the work that you're doing? I mean, you know, from John Holland, I suppose, in this county is very well known, obviously, but like for the likes of a Harry Ferguson, nationwide, is he as popular maybe as his work should lend it to be?
No, he's not. He's, I suppose, maybe a little bit forgotten about because, you know, he was born in 1884, he died in 1960. Everybody knows the Massey Ferguson brand, but not everybody realises that it was an Irishman that contributed to the Ferguson part of that. He's better known in Northern Ireland because he's from County Down. But there is a worldwide movement, really, and I'm a director of a club in England that has 5,000 members that promotes Ferguson's legacy, and I'm also a co-owner of the house where he was born and the farm.
Wow.
So we're developing that into a museum in County Down at the moment. So we hope that all of that will contribute to, I suppose, honouring his legacy and motivating younger generations to emulate what he achieved.
If people want to pick up the book, and as I say, it's a fabulous looking publication with a lovely picture of one of those old style tractors on the front of it. Is it available locally?
Available in the Ennis bookshop, also available through vintageferguson.com.
vintageferguson.com, and if you're anywhere around the area and you want to call maybe and have a look, John has a huge collection there as well, and he'll put you in the right direction of the book. Congratulations on the publication, John, and the best of luck with all the projects you have in train. It sounds like a very, very busy time, and we wish you all the best with it.
Thanks, Derrick.
Fantastic stuff. That is John Barron there in his publication on Harry Ferguson. So he said Ennis Bookstore, or indeed check out those websites as well.